Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Motivational Monday to you. Ah. Welcome to Morning Motivation, your daily dose of inspiration and empowerment. I'm your host, Jamon, and I'm thrilled to have you join us as we kickstart our day with positivity and purpose. So whether you're here to seek motivation, connect with like-minded individuals, you've definitely come to the right spot. And on your way in, go ahead and hit that like button. Let me know you're here. Say what's up. Probably, more than likely will not bite. It's Monday morning and y'all know how Mondays go. So if you're up with me this early on a Monday, I appreciate you. And we're going to make it a good show. Going to get some good information because we are still in our DISC personality assessment styles. And on Friday, we got into that big D energy. What is big D energy? That's what we talked about on Friday because we hear it in songs, pop culture, and it's that exciting, that take charge, that I'm him energy or I'm her energy. And a lot of people love it. It's attractive, it's intoxicating. We talked about the strengths, we talked about the challenges. And today we're moving on to that second letter, the I in DISC. And the I stands for influential. So as we kick off this morning, I want to ask you guys a question. Do you know a person who walks into a room and they light it up? A person that naturally is able to bring people together. That's the influential style. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about the strengths, challenges, communication tips, a couple of real life examples, maybe even some workplace application. So what up, Craig G? Shout out to that chick, yo. Brother Craig. Man, I don't know about y'all weekend. Woo! But I worked pretty much Monday through Saturday evening. Then I got bit by something Saturday evening, and it had my whole arm on fire, lit up. I don't know if it wasn't a mosquito. It was something bigger. Could have been a spider. Could have been a bee sting. I'm not sure which. But your boy was not feeling his best yesterday. And I lounged around. Got some rest in for sure. But then I stayed up late watching movies because, you know, that's what you do when you ain't feeling good. And so this morning, it's a little bit of a struggle for your boy. But I got my cup of coffee. Oh, man. I keep hearing a car horn go off. Hope it ain't mine. But anyway, let's get into it. The influential style. Some of the character traits of a person that's the influential style. Now, I want you to keep in mind, we talked about the dominant style on Friday, and we all had a good idea. But be thinking about somebody you know with the influential style. And the first trait that they have, they're very sociable and they're very enthusiastic. Now, I'm going to talk about Brother Craig this morning because Brother Craig, I don't know if he knows it or not. And for those of you who don't know, Brother Craig is my actual brother. And I'm not sure. I've watched this guy for many years because he's about 7 years younger than me. And I've watched him for many years be a social butterfly. He's the guy who gets everybody together. He just puts something in the group chat, and he'd already been talking to people about a family reunion. I mean, the boy's sociable. He don't always want to admit it, but he is very sociable. So you can already see he's probably going to be somewhere in this I category. What up, boo? Also, a person with a high characteristic style is also enthusiastic. They get a little overly playful sometimes. They have this energy where they're not trying to, haha, what up, K? K said the mayor. Yes, Craig has been called the mayor wherever he goes. We went fishing randomly on a Saturday night, and Craig spoke to everybody on the dock. He even got one guy out there. I don't know if the guy is drunk on drunk. I don't know what this guy was, but him and Craig became like two peas in a pod. Craig, what are you doing? Craig, stop tearing shit up. Hey, Craig, let me talk to you. That's really what happened. And like we was there a matter of maybe an hour before this guy got out there, and he stayed almost the whole time we were there. Doggone Craig G boy. But definitely sociable and enthusiastic. The second trait, people oriented. They thrive on building relationships and creating positive social environments. Put a one in the chat if you know somebody like that. Also, another trait is they're optimistic and they can be very persuasive. Influential individuals are skilled at sharing their excitement and inspiring others to see the possibilities. That's why today's show is titled, There's No I in Team. A person with the influential personality style, they believe in togetherness. They believe in unity. They truly believe that being a part of a team is good. Having a close circle is good. They don't really want to do many things alone, although they do many things alone, but they want everybody to be involved with it. Now, I am a higher I. I told you Friday that my S was stronger than my I. One is an 88, the other is an 83, 81, 83, something like that. So I am very high in the S and in the I categories. Brother Craig would probably be somewhere in the 90s with his I. He is very much an I person. He's another characteristic too, and it's not an S. It is, we'll get into that a little bit later. All right, so let me get we're going to talk about some of these strengths now that we've gotten through that part. So y'all know the characteristics of a person that is a high I. And the strengths, I might be a little bit more biased in this particular show, only because I relate more to it. But I'm not playing favorites because they all matter. Craig says, Yes. Stay tuned, Brother Craig. We're going to drop a few more in on him. Matter of fact, we're going to start with the strengths right now. Wow, here we go. All right. As a personality style of influential, natural communicators, they have an inability to connect with others. I'm sorry, I say inability. I mean, they have a innate. Y'all know I be mixing my words up. I ain't gonna go to that V word. But anyway, they have an innate. It's like an ingrown. It's just a natural ability to connect with others, making them effective in roles that require collaboration or persuasion. They're people. The influential style are people. They go into a space and they can make friends with anybody in that space. They can relate with anybody in that space. They are the ice breakers. They're the ones who will go into a room and they will get the party started if necessary. They will maintain the energy levels, all these things. They're natural communicators. They bring people together. Also, encouraging and supportive. Their optimism brings positive outlooks to team dynamics, making them natural morale boosters. Now, I don't know about you, but I've been to social gatherings where there was nobody interacting, nobody talking, people just sticking to their little cliques. It's a networking event and everybody is sitting in a corner. Everybody's doing their own little thing. And then somebody comes in, grabs the mic, and they make you turn around, make you say to your neighbor. Think about it, when you go to church. How many times have you ever seen a pastor say, look to your left, look to your right, say hello to the person on your right. Said neighbor, that was a thing, especially back in the late 90s, early 2000s. The pastor will have you talking to the people in the room beside you or in the pews beside you. They were breaking the ice. They were changing the energy in the room. They were making people feel more comfortable with one another. And most pastors, most leaders, speakers, some of your favorite speakers, this is their personality style. It may not be their highest, but if they are out doing it, it is probably pretty strong. It is probably pretty strong. And the third strength of this style, they're adaptable and they're open to change. They're fixed or they're flexible and open to new ideas, making them valuable and dynamic or innovative workspaces. A person with a high I is the person we use the Chick-fil-A example, how they do personality assessments to determine who should work where. And the person that's a high I will probably be your front desk personnel. They will be the one that says, hi, welcome to Chick-fil-A, may I take your order? Versus the D will be probably the manager in many cases. Because that D was more detail focused, right? That D was more about the order of things, where the I is more about the kumbaya. Can we get along? How are you today? I want to make you feel better. I want to bring some sunshine in your day. We're a team, guys. Come on, let's do this. I told you when I was in the Army, basic training, about this guy. I'm still not gonna call his name, but he had he was a narcoleptic, right? Y'all know what a narcoleptic or narcolepsy is? So we had a bunch of characters, and his best friend was a guy we called a preacher. And he was every day, come on, guys, we can do it, guys. One more time, guys. Everybody was like, dude, shut up. But I want to hear this at 5:30 in the morning. Because every time he would see us get down, we get tired, or he knew the drill sergeant was coming. What up, D-Rob? Personally, he did not want to smoke. He didn't want nobody to have a bad day. And so whenever his boy was over there just nodding in line, he'd go up to him, he'd pat him on the back, he'd be like, hey, bro, hey, man, we almost in there, man. We was in the chow line one time. And my guy was sitting there, and when you go in there for lunch, we call it chow. When you go in there for lunch or for breakfast, there's a long line of soldiers. Most times it's your company. Sometimes it's a company in front of you or behind you. And so you step up to the person at the door, you give them your last four, they mark you off, you go in. And so it was a line that's slowly moving. And so my man would be sitting there, and he'd take that step, his head would instantly go down because he's going to sleep. I don't know how he graduated basic training. I doubt he's still in, because my man, he was sharp, he was smart, he just couldn't stay woke. But he made it through. How? I don't know. So if my man can make it through, anybody can make it through. But shout out to my guy, bro. If you listening, you know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about you, my guy. Oh, man. And so the preacher would be right behind him. He always got behind him. That was like his spot. And because if he went to sleep, he slowed the line down. If he slowed the line down, the drill sergeants come and they want to see what's going on. And if you let your buddy, your battle buddy, not be right, everybody getting smoked for it. And when I say smoked, I mean flutter kicks, push-ups, 6 inches, you name it. We doing everything right there as we going into the chow hall. Nobody got time for this. So he be on them. Just going, just going, just going. So being adaptable and open to change is probably one of the greatest strengths. A person that will hear your point of view, which is why, in all honesty, in a relationship, the I personality style is more appreciated inside of a relationship. Primarily because they are adaptable, because they will hear you out. They will consider your arguments to what is going on. Versus the D personality style may not be trying to hear it, because in their mind, they know that this is the way to go. And so they're a little bit more rigid in relationships than the influential style. And so, like I say, there is no one style that's better than the other, and nobody is one style. We have all 4 of these styles within our personality, and they are adaptable over time. Over time, they do change. When I was younger, I operated in more of my dominant style when I was younger, because I felt like I had something to prove, because I felt like people were playing in my face on purpose. They was openly disrespecting me. So I operate in a more of a dominant style. So I've never really considered myself a bully, but I was like the bully's bully. Like if I saw you messing with somebody that you knew was weaker than you, well, then I'm come to defend that person that's weak, or that hadn't hit their stride, hadn't found their confidence yet. So I'm gonna step in there, and I've gotten into so many fights just protecting these younger dudes from these predatory dudes. And so it led me to a lot of conflict early on in my life. And I took that energy into my adult life, and I started understanding some things that I'm working too hard. I'm working too hard to be this thing over here. Let me ask y'all a question, and put a 1 in the chat if you've ever thought about this. Have you ever been out in just in your yard or walking in a park or whatever, and have you ever admired the trees? You know, when the seasons change and the leaves go from green to orange or brown. Put a 1 if you ever just noticed that, and how beautiful it was, the changing of the seasons. Or in the springtime when you go from bare tree limbs to green leaves. I very much love the spring and the fall. Not a huge fan of summers and winters, but spring and the fall, they're the perfect times of the year for me, because of the temperature, because of the views, the scenery, just how it looks. It makes me feel good about just life and where I am, because we're all in some kind of transition. We're constantly changing, learning, and growing. But there's one thing I noticed, and I noticed this a long time ago, that to be a tree, you don't see a tree out there straining to grow. You don't see grass straining to grow. You don't see birds struggling to fly. You don't see millipedes or centipedes struggling to crawl. You don't see ants struggling to find food. They go out in their colony and they just look. And then when they find it, they destroy it and bring it back to the crib. They are being themselves. And as humans, because we have the ability to become whatever we choose to become, if we want to fly, we figure out a way to do it. If we want to go fast, we figure out a way to do it. If we want to build tall buildings, we figure out a way to do it. Birds and ants, cows, when they're born at their max. That's all they will do with their lives. But as people, we have that God quality. We have that God energy. We are creators. And I found myself creating a lane that didn't naturally suit me. I was trying to be the dominant one in all my relationships, in all of my situations. And I found it to be a struggle. I found it to be not comfortable because I was having too much confrontation. And once you start in the conflict space, you can only escalate so much. And I found out that I enjoy helping people more than arguing or hurting people. And then some years go by and I'm mellowing out. But then I take my first personality assessment and I realize, during it I was aggravated during it. But after I got the results, it started to make more sense why. I was operating in a space that wasn't my strength. And so I was struggling. But once I flowed more into my natural strength, life got a little easier. So let's look at the weaknesses of this influential personality. Now, those of you who know me, y'all know this to be true. Difficulty focusing on details. Difficulty focusing on details. I think that's probably one of the biggest knocks that I get. This is the blind spot. This is the challenge, right? Influential individuals may struggle with tasks that require a high level of precision or concentration. And so this is where when you see this, it gets a little skewed because I can be high and influential, but because I'm also high in another category, this may not be 100% true for me. It could be like maybe 80% true for me. But this is why when I'm in a relationship with somebody that's a higher D or a higher C, they get frustrated with me because I don't focus on the details. I am totally big picture. Show me the okay, what's the problem? What's the outcome? All that stuff in the middle, all that stuff in the middle, who needs that? You know, we'll get there. We're going to be all right. How we going to be all right, Jamon? I don't know. We're going to be all right, though. To somebody that's is also an I, they'll be like, you right. We're going to figure it out. Somebody who's a D or a C, they're going to be like, bruh, you got to give me more than that. And so that's, little pro tip when dealing with somebody that's in the high I category. Number 2, overly trusting. Oh, man. You ever want to see a person to give you a second chance? Oh, find that high I. Their positive outlook on others can sometimes lead them to overlook risks or potential downsides because we're a little bit more naturally optimistic. So we want to give people the benefit of the doubt. We want to give people maybe not the second chance, but maybe a fresh opportunity to get it right. Yep. Avoiding conflict. Avoiding conflict. In my stage of life right now, I avoid conflict. Why? Because I want peace. I want to be kumbaya. I want things to work the way that they're supposed to work. Because that is my happiness. I'm tired of straining to grow. I'm tired of trying to grow into something that doesn't naturally fit me or doesn't naturally suit me. Put a 1 in the chat if you ever worked a job that you were good at, but you just didn't like the job. You didn't like the people on the job. Excuse me. But it was how you paid your rent, how you paid your mortgage, how you provided for your family. So you had to do it, at least in that moment, in that time. And so you found your strength every day to show up, to try to be as positive as you could, but hating life every step of the way. Yeah, as I said, a lot of ones in there. You see, once you understand your personality style, you could figure out which jobs you're going to thrive in. You can figure out what kind of relationships will best suit you. Because I'm a high I, because I'm a high S, I need somebody in my life that has a higher natural dominant energy, has a natural higher conscientiousness energy, because that brings me balance. Because naturally, if left to my own devices, it'd be a lot of stuff happening, but it's gonna be so disorganized. It's gonna get done. We're gonna have fun along the way. But if I want to be the best version of myself, I need to have people in my circle that challenge me a little bit, that holds my feet to the fire on some of the details sometimes. It doesn't mean I'm weaker. It doesn't mean they're stronger. It means they bring balance to my life. If I'm with a person, let's just say my wife was a high I also, we'd be living in chaos. We'd be living in absolute chaos. D-Rob said Amazon. I've heard stories about Amazon, man. I feel you on that. I've heard many stories on that. Matter of fact, my son is a manager at one of the distribution centers. I think it's distribution. Yeah. He's a manager out there, and he talks about his shift and the challenges that he has, and yeah, it can definitely be a little stressful over there. But if I was with somebody who's a high I, and we have a great time, man. Do we have a great time? But too much of one thing can be a bad thing. Or said too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. Because in life, everything needs balance. ain't nothing getting done. No, I take that back. It's all happening, but it's happening when it happens. There is no timetable. This is the thing, and this is the result. All right, we're gonna get over there, but we're gonna take a detour first. And we're gonna go see about this and see about that, and then we're gonna eventually get around to that. Balance. And that's why sometimes in relationship we get so frustrated, because what's the saying? Opposites attract. And so we'll pick our opposite, and we want them to be like us so much. We don't appreciate the balance that they bring to our life. That is why it is so important for children to have both parents. Even if not in the same household, both parents actively parenting, co-parenting well. Because the child needs to understand both sides of them. Because there's traits that a child would have in one parent or the other, and the other parent don't like that trait. So they talk down about it all the time. So that child's self-esteem is torn down because it's who they are. But then the other parent comes in and said, no, it's okay to be that way. No, we're this way over here. So find your center. And that child has more balance. We're out here looking for people that's just like us. 9 times out of 10, it can work, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard because then it's going to be too much competition. Too much competition. Instead of cooperative working, cooperative environments in home and at work, there's high levels of competition. And competition within the same team is not always healthy. Most times it's not healthy. Because you're so busy trying to do my job that you're not doing your job. Or I'm so busy doing your job that I'm not doing my job. Y'all been on jobs like that, right? Put a one in the chat. Y'all been on jobs where somebody's trying to do your job instead of their job because they're competing with you. And that's how it is a lot of times in relationships. That's how it is in relationships. And so there's another blind spot that I didn't put that on the slide because I didn't want to breeze over it, but it is important. Balancing optimism with realism. Sometimes people within the high I category, they can be dreamers. And they so optimistic they don't see, they don't always see that what they want is a fantasy sometimes. They're very optimistic. And as you get older, especially once you adapt it, you begin to balance it better. You start to see that, okay, this is really, it sounds like a good idea, but it's probably not going to work because of this. So we need to go another way. Balancing optimism with the realism. Emphasize the value of pairing enthusiasm with realistic planning. Grounding big ideas in achievable steps. That's once you are fully into your eye. You understand that there's the things that need to happen to get you here. But when you first come into yours, you're just optimistic. You're dreaming. So how do you deal with the person? First off, do anybody know anybody that has that high I energy? Put a one in the chat if you are in close relations with the person who has that high I energy. Could be a mother, father, sister, brother, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, cousin, somebody that you spend a fair amount of time with and you're recognizing that they were very high I. Because I want to just real quick give you a couple tips on dealing with people with that style. So when you're dealing with the person who is of the influencer style, there's three tips I want to share with you real quick. This is Bobby. I put one. What are you talking about? Must be your dad. I think your dad might be high. Or could be somebody else. I don't know. It's probably not me. But be friendly and open. Engage with warmth and openness to build rapport. I'm going to say that again. Be friendly and open. Engage with warmth and openness to build rapport. Two, focus on big ideas and positive outcomes. When you're talking about stuff, highlight the benefits, the outcomes. High I people, they focus on the outcomes more so, especially as they get older or they embrace that style a little bit more. They focus more on the outcomes and how ideas will contribute to a greater sense of being, a greater good. Remember, they're optimistic. So when you grab a person who's a high I and you get stuck in the mud with them, you get stuck in the details, in the weeds, they're going to mentally check out on you. They'll hear you, but they're listening for two things: the problem and the solution. Yes, I know there's some steps in there, but a person that's a high I believes the outcomes is the end goal. How we get there is important, no doubt. However, if we have an eye on the outcomes, we tend to stay more positive in a mindset. Number 3, when communicating with a person that's a high I, you want to use visuals and stories. Visuals and stories. Influential types respond well to storytelling and visuals that bring concepts to life. So instead of saying, I want breakfast. Something simple. I want breakfast. Say, I bet some eggs and some bacon or some French toast. Or, oh man, you been to Briggs? I bet Briggs would be good today. Because you're giving description, because you're painting a picture as a high I can see it and I'm like, yeah, oh man, then we can do this, we can do that. You just sparked my imagination. So now, not only are we communicating, but we about to go get some good breakfast. If we got to cook it at home or we got to go out, we're going to get it because you just painted that picture in my mind. Just telling a person there's a high I, telling them words, giving them details, they're going to tune you out. But if you paint a picture, you tell them a story, they're going to be all in. And they're probably going to take over the story, just to be honest with you. So who are some people who are high eyes? Can y'all name some celebrities that are high eyes? Can you think of somebody that you maybe look up to? If you see their name on the marquee, you're gonna stop and go in. Bring the idea to life. Exactly, Kay. Bring the idea to life. We are natural storytellers. We love descriptive conversations because they bring ideas to life. Ooh, Ari. Yeah, Ari's a good one. Ari's a good one. And you're going to find a lot of these as your entertainers. They're not as much your CEOs or your analysts. They're more of your entertainers. And one in particular, I think that we all know, it's a Kamala, yep. One in particular I think we all know will be this lady right here. Some people say my Auntie Oprah, Mama Oprah. But Oprah has made a career. I mean, she's made billions of dollars being influential. And all she really does, she sit back and she interview people. She's a thought leader. She's concerned about whatever topic. She wants to bring positivity and joy to her target audience, which was women, stay-at-home moms. I mean, she had a talk show, the Oprah Winfrey Show, on air for years, decades. My grandmother was a huge Oprah fan. She didn't miss a show. You get a car, you get a car, you get a car. I heard somebody say recently she even owns a letter of the alphabet. Oh, own magazines, production companies. She is truly an influencer. Excuse me. She is an influencer. She's known for empathy, warmth, the ability to connect deeply with her audience or whoever's listening. Her influence style has allowed her to build a massive income, create a loyal following, and now she's able to do the work that she's probably always wanted to do, which is empower other people, help other people, donate, be a philanthropist. What about you, Canada? Oprah is probably one of the first names people think about when they think about influence, people who have influence in our culture, over a long period of time. Some of the movies that she's been in, some of the things that she's done has, it's thought provoking. She's did some cult classics, The Color Purple, for example. The new things that she's doing. I mean, it's just, she's been around for so long doing it, and she's very good at being her. She lives in her influential personality style. Another person that some of you may know, some of you may not know, depending upon, how much you into the motivation space. But this guy right here, Tony Robbins. He's probably one of the most high energy people that I've had the privilege of following through the years. I remember when this guy was doing infomercials late night. Didn't know who he was, and I didn't understand what he was doing at the time, but he was always passionate. But he always told stories. He always talked about you can change and be the person that you always wanted to be. And he was the first person that I heard, because there was no social media when I was a kid, when I was growing up. But when I would be sitting in my room at night waiting for Masterpiece, or after Masterpiece Theater ended and whatever kung fu show was on or sci-fi show was on, and right before TV ended, I would see an infomercial. And yes, I said right before TV ended. TV used to go off, y'all. I know some of y'all don't remember that, but TV used to go off. I used to see Tony Robbins do his 30-minute infomercial, and then I hear the Pledge of Allegiance, and then TV would go off. Snow. And so he's really big into what they call it, linguistic programming. Mentally, he used to do fire walks where people would get barefoot and walk across hot coals. He'd have this conference, and people, it'd be thousands of people in this conference hall, and he'd get 100 people, 200 people to be brave enough to fire walk. But he would talk to them first, tell them what it was, tell them how to do it, tell them what's actually causing the fear. And by the end of his presentation, he would have a bunch of people come on stage, and they would take off their socks and shoes, and they would walk across the stage over this fire. And you know what? Nobody got burned. He would do it a couple of times. He wouldn't get burned. And so he was making people believe that they were innately more powerful than they realized. That he would demonstrate it and show them. And so that was years ago. But today, he's on another whole level. He's doing big time conferences around, multiple times throughout the year. He has his own conferences. And he's probably one of the dopest people. Oh, what up, Ren? He said, yeah, I remember TV going off. And now you feel old. Hey, man. Now today you can watch TV 24/7, but once upon a time, it wasn't no Netflix, wasn't no Hulu. If you lived in a space, you got, even if you didn't, and the thing is you didn't have to pay for it. You got 4 channels. You got 5, 11, and 2 of the high stations or frequencies. But you got the news. You got some soap operas. That was pretty much it. You went outside and played, or you read books and stuff. Now we constantly entertain. But anyway, I digress. Tony Robbins, y'all can see I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins. Huge fan. His early, I definitely, my baby's a baby, y'all. She don't remember none of that stuff. But Tony Robbins was probably one of the first people that I listened to that made me think not just more positive about myself, but that I could achieve more things in life. When I used to walk through some of those well-to-do communities, and I would see the 2-story houses, the white picket fences, the garages, the family, and the little dog running around with the kids, and it looked so different than the community that I grew up in. And I'm like, man, why can't my family have something like that? Why can't I have a life like that? And he's one of the first people that made me believe that I could have something like that. So I have a soft spot in my heart for motivational speakers. which is probably why I do a little bit of it myself. But then there's probably the ultimate I. This guy's probably the number one influential person that I've ever known or probably ever will know. Well, not personally, but had the pleasure of watching. Y'all know who this guy is? Of course you do. Everybody knows who this guy is. Smart kid. Brilliant. Became a pastor. Got his PhD early. I think he got his PhD at 26. Small town preacher in the middle of one of the most racist states that known to man. And this little small voice coming out of this little small church began to speak about the possibilities, the dreams, equality. I will not mention that name on this platform. I will not mention that name on this platform. Sorry, boo. This guy was way more influential. In this picture you're listening to right now, he wasn't even well known at this point. He was still just a little preacher that was organizing a bus boycott in Montgomery, Alabama. That was it. And on this particular day, he, amongst other speakers, were making their plea for equality and jobs and just being better people. And he got on the stage. 250 some odd thousand people, 250,000 people. Oh, he would definitely try. And he gave the speech, I Have a Dream. And that speech catapulted him into the international spotlight. And ever since then, people have co-opted, people have appreciated, people have copied his style, his tone, tried to encapsulate his energy for whatever cause there was, because he laid the foundation in a way that nobody before him had done at that level. He had the opportunity to stand before 250,000 people and influence them. And because of that, we are living the dream that he saw. So he goes down in my book as one of the greatest influences in the world, in modern history. And he's been gone now almost 50 years, over 50 years now. But his legacy still lives on. So shout out to Dr. King, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He's definitely one of the ultimate influences. And so when you think about the type of work that a person, what kind of job would you think a person as a high I would be in? Somebody said, I heard it, sales. A lot of your salespeople are also those high I personalities because of the ability to connect with people, the ability to meet people where they are, the ability to be adaptable and open. Talk about all those character traits. You also find them in management. Yep. You also find them in management. You find them in a space where they're small group, they're small team leaders. It's another guy that Randy has a fair amount of high I in him too. He's good with people. He's good with organizing. He's good at bringing people to the table. Entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs bring energy and vision. Balancing optimism with strategic planning. Understanding that there is no I in team. We're going to do this together. I'm going to walk you every step of the way in this process. I'm going to give you the vision. I'm going to make it as plain as I can, and I'm going to try my best to empower you to do this thing. Now, if you are somebody who has this influencer style, I'm going to give you a few tips to help you with your personal growth. First off, you got to channel that energy into meaningful connections. Channel that energy into meaningful connections. Focus on building like that authentic relationship. And I don't mean expanding your social network. I'm not saying go get more followers. Connect with people who are connected is basically what I'm saying. Don't waste your time trying to connect with, 1,000 new followers this week. Because if you make the right connection with somebody that's connected, you may not get 1,000 followers this week, but by the end of the year, you may have 1 million if you connect with the connected. Practice active listening. Practice active listening. And balance optimism with the realism. Those are things that take growth once you really embrace your high-I-ness. Once you understand that's what you are. Because we can be dreamers sometimes. We know it's real, but the optimism takes over sometimes. So we got to find that balance. And so speaking of Dr. King, I want to share with you if I can, let's see. Okay. It did lock up on me. Haha. Well, I want to share, I'm going to try to share with you a small clip of because we're a little low on time right now. So I want to share with you real quick.
August 28, 1963. 250,000 Americans, black and white, young and old, descend on the nation's capital in a show of solidarity. It was called the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, but it would be remembered as a turning point in the fight for civil rights. Among the speakers, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who electrified the crowd with his stirring "I Have a Dream" speech.
So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream.
A few months earlier, racial tensions in the Deep South had erupted. News reports carried brutal images of fire hoses blasting at the backs of school children. President Kennedy had finally seen enough. In June of 1963, he presented sweeping civil rights legislation to Congress. Dr. King and others hoped a massive yet peaceful demonstration in Washington would spur passage of the bill. The city braced for violence, but their fears proved unfounded. The day of the march, more than 200,000 people gathered for a rally at the Washington Monument. It was the largest demonstration in the country's history. Arm in arm, they walked from the Washington Monument to the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. There, performers as diverse as Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, and Mahalia Jackson lent their voices to the cause. Martin Luther King Jr. was the last to take the stage. He began with a reference to Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, which freed the slaves a century earlier.
But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free.
Partway through, King put aside his prepared text and shared with the protesters his dream of equal rights for all.
Let freedom ring, and when this happens, when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
And so the interesting thing about it was he was reading a bunch of text, a bunch of prepared, scripted talking points. And the crowd was just like, blah, 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 blah. And then Mahalia Jackson screamed out, tell them about the dream, Martin. Tell them about the dream. And so he put away his text and he let his eye flow. And he became revered that day. People knew him, people respected him, but on a world stage, he became known when he fully embraced himself. So as we going through this disc assessment, personality styles, I want you to understand wherever you find yourself, whatever style you find yourself in, be fully you. Don't waste energy trying to be like somebody else. Don't waste energy trying to adapt somebody else's style. Be confident in the one that you are. Just like trees don't strain to grow, grass just grows. Birds fly. They're not trying to be anything other than birds. The more you embrace who you are, the easier your journey becomes. The more you can enjoy the simple things in life. The more success you can have, because you're not trying to be anything more than what you are. I can go out and tell you guys that I am 6'9" Hispanic man. And no matter how hard I try, I'm always going to be what I am. I'm only fooling myself because the world sees me. I can be in denial, but how much harder does that make my life? There's nothing wrong with your personality style. There's nothing wrong with you. You are perfect the way you were created. Discovering who you are is the greatest journey that any of us will ever have. So don't be ashamed of what flaws you think you have. You're here for a reason. You are no accident, regardless of how you got here. You are in the time you're supposed to be in. You are in the body you're supposed to be in. And now it's time for us to start figuring out what that mission is, what that journey is, what that road looks like. That's the call. The mission is the journey. Self-discovery is the goal. So I appreciate you guys being with me for this assessment personality styles conversation. We've done 2. Dominance, influential. On Wednesday, we're going to get into that S, that steadiness. That steadiness. And all of us, remember, have all 4 of us in us. We all have all 4 styles. We just naturally flow into 1 or 2 better than the others, or before the others. So, it's Monday. Decide to make it a great week. Be intentional about your actions this week. And you'll find by the end of the week, you had a really good time. So, you guys be blessed. We'll see you on Wednesday. Peace.